We see it all the time. Stories of people in their 70s and 80s who still possess remarkable vitality, strength. Meanwhile, so many of us spend a fortune on protein powders and supplements, only to feel that frustrating slip in strength year after year. So, what is the secret? I can tell you it's not just about lifting heavier weights, and it's not about eating more steak. For years, the real answer was overlooked by almost everyone, hiding in plain sight in our own kitchens. A simple vegetable. Recent science has been uncovering a startling truth that specific compounds inside this humble plant can fundamentally reawaken the cellular machinery that builds muscle. And here's the kicker. It doesn't just slow down muscle loss, it provides the very signals to help reverse it. Hello, I'm Dr. Emma Collins, a biomedical scientist with a PhD in biomedical science, specializing in nutrition, aging, and how our lifestyle choices impact our longevity. So, if you're over 60 and you felt that your body just doesn't respond the way it used to, then stay with me. You are about to discover the science that can help you reclaim your strength. If any of this resonates with you, let me know in the comments where you're watching from today, and be sure to press that subscribe button because you will not want to miss what's coming next. Let's begin by exploring the core of the problem. We'll delve into what is truly happening inside your cells. When most people think about losing muscle after 60, they imagine it is purely a result of aging, as if there is some unavoidable switch that gets flipped once you reach a certain birthday. But the truth is, muscle loss is less about age itself and more about what is happening inside your cells. It's about the environment your cells are living in. At the cellular level, your muscle tissue is in a constant state of remodeling. It's a dynamic process. Every single day, your body is breaking down old, worn-out proteins and building new, stronger ones. This is a process called muscle protein turnover. In our youth, that delicate balance naturally leans toward growth and maintenance. Our bodies are incredibly efficient at repairing and building. But as we move into our 60s and beyond, something begins to disrupt that balance. And that something is not a single culprit. It's a combination of three key factors that work together. Think of them as the three main adversaries in our fight to stay strong. The first of these adversaries is a condition that scientists call anabolic resistance. Now, that might sound like a complicated term, but the concept is actually quite simple. Anabolic resistance simply means that our muscles become less responsive to the usual signals that tell them to grow. These are the signals that come from the protein we eat, the exercise we do, and the hormones in our body, like insulin and growth factors. Imagine you are knocking on a door that used to open easily with just a gentle rap. But now, decades later, the hinges on that door are rusty and stiff. You can knock loudly, you can even pound on the door, but unless you do something to fix those rusty hinges, the door simply is not going to open the same way. That is exactly what happens inside our aging muscle cells. The receptors and the internal pathways that used to eagerly respond to amino acids, especially a powerful one called leucine, are still there. They haven't disappeared. They are just sluggish. They've become clogged by years of accumulated oxidative stress and chronic, low-grade inflammation. So even when you eat a protein-rich meal, the signal to build is not being heard as clearly as it once was. The raw materials might be there, but the construction crew is slow to respond. This is a crucial point to understand. The problem isn't necessarily that you aren't eating enough protein. The problem is that your muscles are losing their ability to efficiently use that protein. This is a fundamental shift in our biology, and it explains why the same diet and exercise routine that worked in our 50s might not be enough in our 70s. The second adversary, working right alongside anabolic resistance, is mitochondrial dysfunction. Let's break that down. Inside virtually every cell in your body, you have these tiny powerhouses. They are called mitochondria. Their main job is to take the food we eat, the fats, the carbohydrates, and convert it into the energy that fuels everything we do. This energy is a molecule called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. ATP is the energy currency of life. It powers every single muscle contraction, every heartbeat, every thought, and every single repair process in the body. When we are young, our mitochondria are numerous and highly efficient, like a brand new power plant operating at full capacity. But over time, our mitochondria start to accumulate damage. This damage comes from things called reactive oxygen species, or free radicals. These are unstable molecules produced as a natural byproduct of energy generation. Think of them as the exhaust from our cellular power plants. A healthy body has robust antioxidant defenses to neutralize these free radicals. But as we age, and especially if our diet lacks the right antioxidants and key supporting nutrients like magnesium, coenzyme Q10, and B vitamins, that damage starts to build up. The mitochondria become less efficient. Some of them even die off. The result is an energy crisis at the cellular level. When the mitochondria in our muscle cells slow down, the entire muscle cell loses its energy efficiency. This means there is less energy available for repairing damage from daily activities and certainly less energy for building new muscle tissue. This is why we feel more fatigued. It's why recovery from a simple walk or a day of gardening takes longer than it used to. It's not just in your head. It's a real biological brownout happening inside your muscles. And that brings us to the third adversary, which ties everything together. It's a state of chronic, low-grade inflammation, a condition so common in aging that it has its own name, inflammaging. This isn't the kind of acute inflammation you get when you sprain your ankle, the kind that is hot, swollen, and painful. That's a healthy, necessary immune response. Inflammaging is different. It is a quiet, persistent background hum of inflammation that builds up over decades. It's caused by a variety of factors, from poor sleep and chronic stress to nutrient deficiencies and a sedentary lifestyle. This low-grade inflammation results in the circulation of inflammatory molecules throughout the body. Two of the main culprits are called interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha. Now, you don't need to remember those names. What you need to know is that these molecules can directly interfere with and block the very signaling pathways that are supposed to stimulate muscle growth. Think of it as static on a communication line. Your brain, your hormones, and the protein from your lunch are all trying to send the signal to your muscles, saying, "It's time to build and repair." But the static from this chronic inflammation is distorting that message. The signal to grow is still being sent, but it is being garbled before it can be clearly received. This inflammation also contributes to the damage of our mitochondria and worsens the problem of anabolic resistance. It is a vicious cycle. The inflammation makes the muscles less responsive, and weaker muscles can lead to more inactivity, which in turn can promote more inflammation. And here is the fascinating part in all of this, the part that gives us real hope. These mechanisms, this rusty door of anabolic resistance, this energy brownout from mitochondrial dysfunction, and this static of chronic inflammation, they are not irreversible. They are not a one-way street. Science is now showing us, with increasing clarity, that both mitochondrial function and anabolic sensitivity can be restored. The same systems that begin to slow down with age can be reignited. We can clean the rust off the hinges, we can clear the static from the communication lines, we can help our bodies build new, healthier mitochondria. And that is where the right vegetables and nutrients come into the story. Now that we have peeled back the layers of why muscle loss happens at a deep cellular level, let us turn to something that most people overlook. Let's talk about how specific vegetables can act as powerful metabolic amplifiers inside your muscle cells. When you think about building muscle, your mind probably goes to protein shakes, eggs, or a chicken breast, not spinach, beet greens, or watercress. Yet, research over the last decade has begun to reveal something truly fascinating. Certain vegetables contain what are known as bioactive compounds. These compounds do not just provide basic nutrients like vitamins and minerals. They do much more. They act as molecular messengers, actively turning on and off pathways inside our cells that can enhance blood flow, improve oxygen delivery, and even stimulate the growth of new mitochondria. Let's start with a compound you have likely heard about but may not fully appreciate. Let's talk about dietary nitrates. Dietary nitrates are found abundantly in certain vegetables, especially spinach, arugula, beetroot, and other leafy greens. For a long time, nitrates were misunderstood. But we now know that when we consume these vegetables, our body converts these natural nitrates into a remarkable signaling molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a powerful vasodilator. That means it relaxes and expands our blood vessels. Think of your circulatory system as a network of highways. Nitric oxide acts like a master traffic controller, widening the lanes so that more traffic can flow through smoothly and quickly. Here's what is happening at the cellular level when you eat a salad with spinach and arugula. The nitric oxide produced from those nitrates improves circulation and nutrient delivery to your working muscle tissue. This enhanced blood flow does two critical things. First, it feeds your muscles with more of what they need to function. More oxygen and more glucose, their primary fuel sources. Second, it helps to clear away the metabolic byproducts that cause fatigue, like lactic acid. The result of this improved circulation is tangible. You experience more endurance. You have a better recovery after activity, and your muscles receive a stronger, clearer signal for adaptation and growth. A compelling study from the University of Exeter in 2021 shed light on this. They looked at older adults and found that those who consumed nitrate-rich vegetables daily experienced significantly improved muscle function, even without increasing their exercise volume. Their muscles actually became more efficient at producing force. This suggests that nitric oxide is doing more than just helping with endurance. It seems to be directly supporting the contractile machinery inside the muscle fibers themselves. It's helping the engine of the muscle run more smoothly. But nitrates are only one part of this incredible equation. Vegetables like spinach and kale also contain their own plant-based proteins and a whole host of unique phytonutrients. These are natural plant compounds like lutein, quercetin, and a particularly interesting one called beta-ecdysterone. These compounds do not work in isolation. They work synergistically, meaning their combined effect is greater than the sum of their parts. They work together to reduce that oxidative stress we talked about. The cellular exhaust. They help to stabilize the delicate membranes of our cells, and they actively support anabolic signaling, which is the scientific term for the process by which your body builds new muscle proteins. Let me break that down with a simple analogy. Imagine your muscle cell is a complex factory. Inside that factory, you have the workers, those are the mitochondria, generating energy. You have the machinery, those are the protein synthesis pathways that assemble new muscle tissue. And you have the power lines, those are the blood vessels delivering fuel and instructions. Over time, as the factory ages, some of those power lines get a bit corroded. The machinery slows down due to friction and wear. The workers get tired. Now, think of these plant phytonutrients as a team of expert maintenance engineers. They come into the factory and they get to work. They clean the system, reducing the friction caused by inflammation and oxidative stress. They help the machinery run smoothly again. They essentially tune up the entire factory so it can operate more efficiently. Spinach, for instance, contains that compound I mentioned, beta-ecdysterone. This is a naturally occurring plant compound that has been shown in controlled scientific trials to enhance muscle protein synthesis and improve lean body mass, especially when it is combined with resistance training. It works by activating a specific pathway in the cell known as the PI3K divided by ACT pathway. Now, what's fascinating is that this is one of the very same pathways that is stimulated by our own growth factors and by the amino acids from protein. In other words, this humble vegetable is sending the very same biochemical message as a high-protein meal. That message is simple: build. Beyond that, we can't forget the minerals and vitamins. The magnesium and folate found in abundance in dark leafy greens play essential roles in energy metabolism and DNA repair, both of which are absolutely crucial for maintaining the integrity of our muscle cells as we age. Without enough magnesium, for example, the enzymes that drive that ATP energy production slow down, leaving you with less energy for both repair and growth. So when you eat these nitrate-rich greens, you are not just adding fiber and vitamins to your plate. You are doing something much more profound. you are effectively upgrading your entire cellular environment. You are helping to restore mitochondrial efficiency, enhance your vascular function, and reawaken your muscle's own innate ability to grow. And here is the most exciting part. When you combine these powerful vegetables with quality protein and some form of resistance training, the effects multiply. It is a perfect biochemical symphony. The nitrates from the greens improve blood flow to the muscle. The antioxidants they contain reduce the inflammation that was blocking the growth signals. And the protein you eat provides the raw building materials for the actual rebuilding process. Now, let's address one of the most persistent myths in all of nutrition science. Let's talk about the idea that plant protein is somehow inferior for building muscle. You have probably heard this before. It is a common belief, often repeated, that only animal-based protein sources like eggs, whey protein, or meat can effectively stimulate muscle protein synthesis. But the more we look at the actual scientific data, the more that old narrative starts to crumble. Here is the truth. The effectiveness of a protein source depends not just on its amino acid profile, but on how you use it. It depends on the context. And that context changes dramatically as we age. At the cellular level, muscle growth is governed by a master signaling pathway called mTOR. You can think of mTOR as the molecular on switch that triggers the entire process of building new muscle protein. To turn on this mTOR switch, your body needs three things to be in place. First, it needs a sufficient dose of that key amino acid we mentioned earlier, leucine. Leucine is the primary trigger. Second, it needs available energy from those mitochondrial powerhouses. The cell needs to know it has enough fuel to complete the job. And third, it needs a low inflammation environment. The signal needs to be clear of static. When all three of those conditions are met, your body's response is clear: build. Animal proteins are typically very rich in leucine, which is why they so powerfully and reliably activate this mTOR pathway. But here is what the emerging research is showing. When plant-based proteins are consumed strategically, when they are combined to create a complete amino acid profile, and when they are consumed in slightly higher amounts to ensure you get enough leucine, they can stimulate that mTOR switch to a comparable degree. Let me break this down with a specific example. A 2019 study from Maastricht University, a respected research institution, looked at this very question. They found that older adults who consumed a blend of pea protein and rice protein experienced similar rates of muscle protein synthesis to those who consumed whey protein, which is often considered the gold standard. There was one important condition. As long as the total protein intake and the total leucine levels were matched between the two groups. In other words, the cells did not seem to care where the protein came from. It was not about animal versus plant. It was about providing your cells with the right building blocks and the right conditions for repair. This is where vegetables play a hidden but absolutely critical role. Dark leafy greens like spinach, watercress, and kale do not just contain small amounts of their own protein. They contain the cofactors that make all protein metabolism more efficient. Think of them as the essential tools that the construction workers need. Nutrients like magnesium, folate, and vitamin B6, for instance, are all necessary for amino acid utilization and for energy production. Without them, even a high-protein meal from any source can fail to fully translate into new muscle growth. So, those greens on your plate are doing double duty. They are supplying small amounts of high-quality plant protein, and they are enhancing your body's ability to use all the other protein you eat throughout the day. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but doctor, I would have to eat a mountain of spinach to match the protein in a single steak. And if you are just counting grams of protein, you are absolutely right. But here is where we need to shift our perspective. The goal is not to replace protein-rich foods with vegetables. The goal is to enhance your body's anabolic response to whatever protein you do consume. Think of these vegetables as amplifiers. They turn up the volume on the muscle-building signal that your meal is sending. The plant-based compounds we discussed, the beta-ecdysterone, the nitrates, the flavonoids, they all work together to improve blood flow, enhance nutrient delivery to the muscle cells, and reduce that background inflammation. These are all conditions that make your muscle cells more receptive, more sensitive to the protein you eat. So, When you combine, for example, a serving of lentils or quinoa with a side of nitrate-rich greens like spinach or beet leaves, you are creating a powerful synergy. You are supporting both your performance and your recovery. And let us not overlook the profound connection between our gut and our muscles. Plant fibers and polyphenols from these vegetables improve the health of your gut microbiome. This, in turn, increases the production of beneficial molecules called short-chain fatty acids. These molecules have been shown to influence inflammation throughout the body and improve insulin sensitivity, both of which are critical for muscle growth and repair. Your microbiome, in essence, becomes a part of your muscle-building toolkit. All right, let's now talk about something both ancient and cutting-edge. Let's explore the concept of hormesis. Hormesis is one of the most powerful biological principles we have for slowing the aging process, rebuilding muscle, and restoring cellular vitality. In essence, the principle of hormesis means that small, controlled doses of stress can actually make your body stronger and more resilient. When it comes to reversing muscle loss after 60, this principle is essential to understand and apply. Here is what is happening at the cellular level. When you expose your body to a mild stressor, whether that is the physical stress of resistance training, the metabolic stress of intermittent fasting, the heat stress from a sauna, or the cold stress from a cold plunge, your cells interpret it as a challenge. They don't just sit there passively, they respond. They respond by activating powerful, built-in repair and adaptation pathways. These pathways have names like AMPK and PGC1 alpha, and they produce things called heat shock proteins. These pathways do incredible things. They increase mitochondrial biogenesis, which means your body literally builds new mitochondria. They improve protein folding, ensuring your cellular machinery is well made, and they reduce oxidative stress by boosting your body's own internal antioxidant systems. In simpler terms, hormetic stress sends a clear message to your cells: adapt or fall behind. And your cells respond by becoming more efficient, more robust, and more resilient. Let's take resistance training as the classic example. When you lift weights or perform bodyweight exercises like squats, you are creating tiny, microscopic tears in your muscle fibers. Now, that might sound like damage, and in a way, it is. But it is this controlled damage that is actually the trigger for growth. Your body senses this stress. It mobilizes specialized stem cells called satellite cells to come in and repair the tissue. And in the process of that repair, it makes the muscle stronger and often thicker than it was before. This is hormesis in action, a controlled breakdown that leads to a greater strength. But here is where it gets even more interesting, and where it connects back to our vegetables. Nutrients from certain plants can enhance this hormetic response. Specific compounds like sulforaphane, found abundantly in broccoli sprouts, quercetin, found in onions and kale, and of course, the nitrates we've discussed in spinach and beets, can act as mild stressors themselves at the cellular level. They activate a master regulatory pathway in your cells, called the NRF2 pathway. You can think of NRF2 as a master switch for cellular defense. When you flip this switch, it turns on a whole cascade of genes responsible for producing your body's most powerful antioxidants, for detoxification, and for mitochondrial repair. So, when you eat these specific vegetables, you are not just nourishing your cells with vitamins and minerals, you are actively training them. Think of these hormetic nutrients as a form of cellular exercise. Just as lifting a weight makes your muscles stronger, consuming these phytonutrients teaches your cells how to handle stress more effectively. The result is greater endurance, faster recovery from physical activity, and improved muscle regeneration. A 2020 study published in the journal Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience demonstrated this synergy beautifully. They found that individuals who combined resistance training with regular consumption of cruciferous and nitrate-rich vegetables experienced not only greater muscle gains, but also improved cognitive function and reduced markers of inflammation. That is a full body upgrade. It's driven by this powerful hormetic synergy, movement plus micronutrients. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that older adults can make is trying to avoid stress altogether, both physical and metabolic. Many people think, I am too old for strenuous exercise. Or I should avoid things like saunas or cold plunges. But the scientific data show the opposite is true. It is the absence of these small, manageable challenges that actually accelerates the aging process. Your body needs these small challenges to stay adaptive and strong. Without them, mitochondrial function declines faster, inflammation rises unchecked, and muscle regeneration stalls. We often talk about what to eat and how much to eat, but one of the most overlooked aspects of muscle health and longevity is when to eat. Nutrient timing and how it interacts with your body's natural circadian rhythm can dramatically influence muscle repair, your metabolism, and even how efficiently your body uses the protein you consume. Here is the key idea. Your body is not a machine that runs on the same gear all day long. Every single cell in your body, including your muscle cells, operates on a roughly 24-hour rhythm. This rhythm is controlled by a network of internal biological clocks. These clocks are synchronized primarily by light exposure, but also by your meal times. These clocks regulate almost everything: hormone release, enzyme activity, digestion, and, importantly for us, cellular repair. When we align our eating and our activity patterns with these natural rhythms, we optimize our body's innate ability to build and maintain muscle tissue. Here is what is happening at the cellular level. Muscle protein synthesis, the process of building new muscle, tends to be most efficient earlier in the day and in the window following physical activity. This is because our insulin sensitivity, our blood flow, and our mitochondrial efficiency are all naturally highest during our active daylight hours. When you consume protein and nutrient-dense foods during this optimal window, your body can direct those amino acids more effectively toward repair and growth rather than toward storage. Now, contrast that with late-night eating. As the evening progresses and darkness falls, your brain begins to release melatonin. Melatonin levels rise, signaling to your body that it is time to wind down. Your digestion naturally slows, and your muscles shift from a state of activity to a state of recovery and repair. Consuming a heavy meal late at night can interfere with that crucial repair process. It can disrupt the delicate hormonal balance and interfere with mitochondrial function during sleep. Studies have consistently shown that older adults who consume the majority of their calories, and particularly their protein, earlier in the day experience greater retention of their lean muscle mass and have better metabolic control. One fascinating study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that distributing protein intake evenly across all 3 meals, aiming for around 25 to 30 grams per meal, was significantly more effective for stimulating muscle protein synthesis throughout the day than the common pattern of eating a small amount of protein at breakfast and lunch, and then concentrating it all in one large dinner meal. This even distribution provides a consistent anabolic signal throughout the day, keeping your muscles in a near-constant state of renewal. Let's connect this back to the vegetables we have been talking about. When you consume your nitrate-rich greens or cruciferous vegetables earlier in the day, you enhance blood flow and nitric oxide availability during your most active hours. This supports better oxygen delivery to your muscles during movement or exercise. And that, in turn, amplifies your anabolic response to the protein you eat alongside it. It is a beautiful synergy. Light exposure in the morning, nutrient timing throughout the day, and cellular repair at night, all dancing in perfect rhythm. We have explored cellular science, the nutrient synergy, and the powerful impact of timing. Now, let us bring everything together into a practical, science-backed blueprint. This is a daily rhythm that you can begin implementing immediately to help rebuild muscle, restore your energy, and extend your health span. The goal here is not perfection. It is consistency. It is about small, repeatable actions that, over time, can reshape your physiology from the inside out. Think of this as designing your day to work with your cells, not against them. Let us begin with the morning. When you wake up, light is your first nutrient. Before you even have your coffee, try to step outside, even for just 5 or 10 minutes. Allow the morning sunlight to hit your eyes. This does not mean staring at the sun, just being outside is enough. This early light exposure is the most powerful signal to reset your body's master circadian clock. It tells every cell in your body that it is daytime. It is time to be active, To build, not to store. Follow that with hydration. A large glass of water, perhaps with a tiny pinch of sea salt or a bit of magnesium, can help support muscle and nerve function for the day ahead. Then, do some form of movement. It does not have to be a strenuous workout at the gym. A few sets of bodyweight squats, some work with resistance bands, or even a brisk walk around the block are enough to activate your muscles. This movement sends a powerful signal to your body that these muscles are still needed, that they are essential. Within about an hour of that activity, consume your first high-protein, nutrient-dense meal of the day. This is the optimal window to refuel. This meal could include either plant or animal protein. Perhaps it is eggs with a generous handful of spinach or a bowl of lentils and tofu with a side of arugula or beet greens. The combination of the amino acids from the protein and the nitrates from the greens will enhance that nitric oxide production, improving blood flow to your muscle tissue and optimizing the uptake of all the nutrients from your meal. Throughout the day, the key is to maintain steady nutrition, rather than eating large, infrequent meals. Aim for each of your meals to provide roughly 25 to 30 grams of protein, and always include a serving of those phytonutrient-rich vegetables. A midday meal might include a piece of salmon with steamed broccoli, or perhaps a large lentil and quinoa bowl filled with kale and a drizzle of olive oil. The key here is diversity. The broader the range of colors on your plate, the greens, the reds, the oranges, the purples, the wider the spectrum of antioxidants and cofactors you are providing to feed and protect your mitochondria. In the afternoon, if your schedule and health allow, consider incorporating a brief hormetic stressor. This could be a short session in a sauna, or even just a short bout of cold exposure, like ending your shower with 30 seconds of cold water. These are those hormetic triggers we talked about, those mild challenges that boost mitochondrial resilience and enhance cellular repair. Studies have shown that heat exposure from a sauna can significantly elevate growth hormone levels, which is crucial for repair, while cold exposure can improve circulation and aid in recovery. As evening approaches, it is time to begin slowing your rhythm down, signaling to your body that the day is ending. Try to eat your final meal at least 3 hours before you plan to go to bed. Keep this meal a bit lighter, but still ensure it is nutrient-dense. This allows your body to shift its energy away from digestion and toward the critical processes of repair and cleanup that happen during sleep. A good evening meal might be a spinach and chickpea salad with some avocado, or perhaps some grilled vegetables with a small serving of fish or beans. This provides an ideal mix of plant compounds and protein without overburdening your digestive system late at night. Then, prioritize your sleep. Deep sleep is not just rest. It is a period of intense biological reconstruction. It is when much of your muscle recovery and mitochondrial repair actually occur. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep in a cool, dark, and quiet environment. Try to avoid blue light from screens for at least an hour before bed, and consider creating calming rituals, like some gentle stretching or reading a physical book. We have now come full circle. You made it. What you have just discovered is not simply a list of foods to eat. You now understand the science of how to reclaim your function at the cellular level. You have learned how to send the right signals to your body, signals of strength, repair, and vitality. That is the true power. I am not asking you to change everything in your life tomorrow. Just do one thing. Choose one single change from this video, and try it once, today. Maybe that means adding a handful of fresh spinach to your lunch? Or perhaps it is taking a simple 10-minute walk right after breakfast. That single small action, that is how every meaningful transformation begins. And to help us build a strong, supportive community right here, if you feel inspired to begin this journey, please take a moment to comment with the phrase, "Ready for action," down below. I make a point to read through the comments, and it is wonderful to see us all moving forward together. Finally, please remember this. You are not too late. Your body has not forgotten how to be strong. It is listening, waiting for the right instructions. Your journey to reclaiming your vitality has only just begun. Thank you for watching. If you found this valuable, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And be sure to subscribe so we can continue to walk this path together.